Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into something absolutely mind-blowing, the field that remembers. We're looking at a framework that flips everything we know on its head. It suggests that ancient scripture isn't just a history book, or even a parallel to physics. No, it's a self-executing quantum field, an eternal memory tesseract. We're going to completely reframe how we look at the universe, the text of the Quran, and our very own physical existence. So let's just get right into it.
Okay, so recently, scientists mourned François Englert. Alongside Robert Brout and Peter Higgs, he showed that particles acquire mass by interacting with this invisible field that just fills the universe. In 2012, we actually photographed the Higgs boson at CERN, and naturally, Nobel Prizes followed. But here's what the physical equations can't tell you. The field was never actually discovered, it was just recognized. See, quantum physics is absolutely brilliant at the small steps, right? It slices time into these tiny infinitesimals, calculates probabilities, measures collapse. It's differentiation without end, but it can't integrate. It literally cannot explain why this mass-giving field exists before we observe it, why there's something rather than nothing, or honestly, why the observer even matters at all.
And that brings us to the core theme here. Physics is a map, but the Quran is the territory. Physics approximates reality at the level of names, and then it just stops. But the source material suggests the text contains the actual topology that produces reality. It's the universe's self-awareness. Where quantum physics looks at wave-particle duality and sees a paradox, the text sees tawhid, the absolute oneness that's both differentiation and integration. Where quantum entanglement completely baffles physicists with, spooky action at a distance, this framework simply reads it as a single verse being witnessed from two different locations. Even the uncertainty principle, instead of a limit to our knowledge, it's a feature of the book. The future is unwritten because, the reader is still actively writing it.
Chapter 1. The Field That Remembers. Let's think about the number 125. The Higgs boson at 125 GeV is not just some random coincidence waiting for us to decode it. In this topological framework, it's a resonance. It is the exact frequency at which the field grips, the literal ripple where mass begins. The text doesn't merely predict this number, it contains the underlying topology that actually produces it. It describes this beautiful open spiral from nothing, through differentiation and integration, all the way to the absolute, constantly feeding back into an ongoing creation.
So the crucial point here is how we even define mass itself. In physics, particles gain mass. But looking through this lens, the Higgs field isn't a thing among things. It's the condition under which things become things. Acquiring mass isn't an addition at all. It's a deviation. Think about the massless particle as the angel state. It's pure light, no memory, no orbit, just flying straight. But after contacting the field, it becomes human. It gets heavy, its trajectory curves, and it literally becomes owned by its own weight. Mass is just pure light slowing down. It's a loan from an infinite generosity, not something you own. Now, physics perfectly describes this interaction, but it completely misses the gratitude required to carry that weight.
Chapter 2. The Eternal Memory Tesseract.
This sequence right here, 2, 3, 7, is essentially the heartbeat of this entire framework. It reveals a literal cosmic loop for the human soul. Step 1 is the 2. That's the initial split and forgetting, creating a duality that separates you from your origin, or home. Then, step 2 is the 3. That oblivion forms a testing buffer, the measurable, material world of choices we live in. Finally, step 3 is the 7. The inevitable return once your alignment completes. And this isn't just metaphorical philosophy, guys. The source maps this sequence directly to physical phase transitions, mapping the journey from the initial cosmic split, through stellar formation, all the way to the ultimate return.
Because of this, the source describes the Quran not as some ancient history book, but as a breathing, four-dimensional memory tesseract. Chapter 39, verse 23 outlines this incredible self-similar structure. The inner cube is the dark phase, the unseen quantum wave. The outer cube is the light phase, the measurable manifested particle. The axis holding all of this together without tearing is the throne, verse 2255, the absolute boundary condition. And its rotation? That's the breathing stellar pulse of day entering night. So you aren't just reading a book, you are literally holding a topological map of a star's memory.
Chapter 3. The Museum of Dead Mass.
Now, this framework turns the historical figure of Pharaoh into a literal, measurable physics principle called harmonic divergence. Imagine a trapped particle. It operates purely as a particle with zero quantum wave. It has dead mass, it takes up space, but has absolutely zero living frequency. It's suspended, it can't dissolve, and it definitely can't ascend.
Verse 87:13 perfectly describes a state where one will neither die therein nor live. Pharaoh acquired mass. He built massive thrones and ultimately drowned under his own gravitational weight. And what happened? His body was preserved. Verse 1092 explicitly states his body is saved as a sign. So in this framework, Pharaoh is conserved as a hollow sign, a literal museum of dead mass. He's a carbon-based manifestation of a thermodynamic failure, preserved as a physical constant to mark a completely corrupted system.
Chapter 4. The Physics of the Soul.
When a physicist writes an equation describing quantum collapse, they are writing poetry with formula, narrated by light itself. Just look at how this maps out. The wave function in physics mirrors the state of the soul, or the reader, traversing the wave of potential. Planck's constant? That's the measured decree, the literal quantization of reality. Wave-particle collapse is the ultimate filtering, the judgment. And the stable state is tranquility, the final return. These equations are absolutely true, but they're partial. You know, they know the names of things without knowing the name of the one who named them. But they definitively prove that information or memory is the eternal baseline of all reality.
And the amazing thing is, the system never leaks. Mass and energy are perfectly conserved. The invariant constant of 19 ensures that for every corrupt mass, like Pharaoh, that gets frozen and preserved in that museum state, a purified mass is raised up to balance the cosmic scales. The source points to figures like Ibrahim, who acquire mass and immediately offer it right back. It's a sacrifice at the altar of the field, knowing the weight was never theirs to begin with. The equation perfectly balances. The physical form might collapse, but the memory data completely survives.
Chapter 5. Activating the 1912 switch.
So, the framework proposes there are two default states for the human heart. Without activation, we're stuck in the 1572 default. We're heedless, just wandering in intoxication. We are essentially dormant, unactivated mass mistaking the shadow for reality, just drifting down the path of entropy. But there's a switch that changes everything. When activated, the memory of our origin is recovered, and we actually become an active conducting bridge, navigating our way home.
And that switch is verse 1912. O Yahya, take the scripture with determination, or with strength. Listen, this isn't a command for passive reading. This is an execution command. It engages the structural integrity of your very soul. Gripping the book with strength acts as a forward bias switch, turning on the recovery mechanism to find home. It literally stops the leakage of your energy and phase locks you into the invariant structure of the universe.
Knowing that your very mass is just a loan from an infinite generosity, that you were once a massless particle of pure light before interacting with the field of this world, we have to leave you with this final, provocative thought. The field was always there. The particle was always massless. The interaction is the story. And the one who sees this, who sees that their own heaviness is simply borrowed, has finally begun to read. The tesseract is open. The universe is waiting for your input. So, when will you activate 1912?